So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to take a quick look at Sybaris Prime. Now, this weapon got overshadowed a little bit by the Sylvan Aegis Prime, which is a shame because this is a really cool rifle, and I think it's just that Sylvan Aegis got such a huge buff with the primed version, it instantly became the highlight for a lot of people in this primed access. But don't be fooled, this weapon got a buff as well, especially when you compare it to the original Sybaris. I would say it's even better than Deck Sybaris, even though it doesn't have as much crit. When we compare all three of them, we can see that it does do more damage than both of the previous versions, though it does do less slash damage than the Deck Sybaris. It has 15% more status chance than both of them, it has bigger magazine and higher fire rate. It is less accurate than both the original Sybaris and the Deck Sybaris, but I didn't notice this whatsoever. And while it does have 5% more crit chance than the original Sybaris, it has 5% less crit chance than the Dex version. It's also a Mastery Rank 12 weapon, unlike the original Sybaris, which was Mastery Rank 5, and the Deck Sybaris, which didn't have any Mastery Rank requirement, and it comes with 3 polarities, 2 dashes and a V. And finally, let's also not forget how gorgeous the damn thing is, and the animations, I mean,
Shit so fancy I need a second Monaco. Yes, quite.
Now, I've tried multiple different builds for Sybaris Prime, and the one I ended up liking the most and the one I ended up using is the first one that I did, which was just a simple one Forma build where I've added one V for split chamber and I've utilized both of the dash polarities with 90% elemental mods. And the mods are pretty standard. I'm using Serration for damage, then I have Split Chamber for multi-shot, Point Strike for crit chance, Vital Sense for critical damage, then I'm running High Voltage, Malignant Force and Stormbringer for a lot of corrosive damage and also a decent amount of status. I mean, I do have 78% status, which is more than enough for a burst rifle, and I'm running Hellfire for heat damage. Now, for being a one Forma build, it does more than enough damage to take you through all 3 sorties for all 3 factions, especially if you're good at headshotting. This is like the ultimate hybrid build because instead of going into just crit and status, you're going into crit, status and damage. So you have enough status to strip away the enemy armor and proc a nasty slash proc here and there, but you also have a good combination of damage and crit to then melt their face off once they don't have any armor. And since the weapon has very balanced damage distribution because it does an equal amount of slash, puncture and impact damage, it's really effective versus all the factions even if you don't swap your elemental combos around. Now, you can definitely add more Forma to push the weapon more towards either a status build or a crit build or even a more standard hybrid build, but after trying them out, I went back to this build because I just liked it the most. It's just a very solid setup that does good damage, has good status, good crit, and it doesn't feel as restrictive as something like an Argent Scope build. I used to run the Argent Scope setup on both of the previous versions, but after playing with the previous setup, I just don't like it as much anymore. And there is a very cheap way to do it. It only uses one Forma, but instead of just adding a V for split chamber, you take one of the dashes that the weapon comes with and you turn that into the V polarity. The reason why I don't like it as much anymore is because compared to the previous build, it feels inconsistent and kind of restrictive. And it's all because of Argent Scope, because you have to get a headshot every 9 seconds and you have to aim down sight, otherwise Argent Scope is just not doing anything. And while I can easily get a headshot every 9 seconds because the weapon is accurate enough for me to kill about 40% of the enemies with headshots, it's the aim down sights portion that I don't really like. I aim down sights most of the time with the Sybaris Prime, but if you're in a tile set that has a lot of corridors rather than big open rooms or there's a lot of melee enemies, it starts to get annoying pretty fast. And while red crits are definitely nice, and if you get a lot of them, you will shred the enemy in seconds, I don't like how inconsistent they are. I just prefer the consistent damage of the previous setup far more than the occasional red crit here and there. But if you don't mind aiming down sights at all times and you're good at headshots, go right ahead. This build is very strong as well. So would I recommend the Sybaris Prime? Oh yes, I would. This weapon is amazing. The thing I like about it the most is the same thing that I liked about the Sylvan Aegis Prime, the versatility. The weapon is really strong and it has the right amount of stats so that you are not forced to use one build for it to be effective. You can play around with different builds and just find the one you like and stick to that. I really like weapons that do this, weapons that give you choice rather than just having one build that's the best and all other builds are useless like Soma and Soma Prime. And most importantly, the weapon is fun as well, especially the way it fires, the 2 shots you get one after another. Because it can lead to some really cool moments like aiming at an enemy's head and as you fire and the weapon kicks up, the second shot will shoot another enemy in the head and you'll be like, I just did that! That was awesome! So this weapon gets a big thumbs up from me. It's fun, it looks awesome, it's strong, it's versatile, it's just amazing. So if you can, definitely get this. You will not regret having this weapon in your arsenal. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!